Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. And I recently saw something in an episode of the reality TV show Survivor, and it had me wondering, what does CERN have to do with Survivor and the Freemasons? The Large Hadron Collider is the world's largest and most powerful particle collider, the largest, most complex experimental facility ever built, and the largest single machine in the world. It's also believed by many people that the LHC is being used to create interdimensional portals. It's been suggested that by colliding heavier subatomic particles such as lead ions, and that's what CERN does, that space and time could be distorted, creating what Einstein called a Rosen bridge, or a stargate, which is basically a wormhole between two different locations, dimensions, or periods of time. It's also been suggested that such distortions in the space-time continuum could lead to what has been referred to as the Groundhog Day effect, in which time folds back on itself, allowing manipulation of the past. Now, you may remember Symmetry. This was kind of an opera that was actually filmed inside of CERN, and I covered some of the symbolism there. Lots of other people have as well, because there was a lot of occult symbolism to be covered in this entire thing. The trailer itself for Symmetry was called Searching for the Equilibrium Between Art and Science, and however mundane and superficial that sounds, it might also be interpreted as a balance between the reality we've been sold and the truth of disclosure that is upon us as a result of certain events. So for the many of us out there who look for symbolism and hidden agendas, the existence and timing of the release of that movie was very significant, considering the idea that the powers that be always have to tell us what they're going to do before they do it in order for their magic to work, and that's called lesser magic. It's very much the same idea as that age-old story of the vampire having to be invited in. The public must be informed and give its apathetic nod, if you will, to the superficial spin the media doles out on all the stuff they feed us. So that being the case, Symmetry was so packed with occult symbolism, we really have to ask ourselves, what are they actually trying to tell us? The current system that we're in is something that I often refer to as the beast system. And I find it really interesting how often we see a lot of these same New World Order agendas playing out in a lot of our entertainment. There's tons of CERN symbolism, LHC symbolism, and all kinds of kids' cartoons, movies, television shows, and this stuff's been going back for years. And another one of those very common themes we've been seeing time and time again recently goes back to the Nephilim giants, the giants underground, or the giants emerging, the giants coming out of the pit, or the giants returning, right? You've seen a lot of this giant symbolism coming up in all kinds of things over the last few years. Well, that's just one example. But as I said, it's very interesting how often we'll see a lot of the symbolism popping up in all kinds of places, oftentimes associated with the occult or the hidden. And as an example of some of the more interesting places that this symbolism shows up at times, I want to show you something I found on the television show Survivor. And yes, I watched Survivor. I know, I should probably know better, right? But there are a few shows out there that I still watch, because I've watched them since the very beginning. I've seen every season of Survivor from the very first one. And throughout all those years, I'd never really seen anything obvious on Survivor as far as symbolism goes. Well, there's the obvious stuff with tribes and whatnot. I mean, these are idols after all, right? These are false gods, they're idols. And these are tribes that are competing for the idol's favor, for immunity, for the false god to bless them. So I see that, I understand that. But it wasn't until this past season that I saw something that really kind of stood out, and I was pretty surprised when I saw it. I'm going to let you see this for yourself, and I'm pretty sure you're going to see the same symbolism that I saw there. There's really a lot going on with this particular symbol. And this part right here actually happened about halfway through the season. It's just something I was kind of sitting on and kind of thinking about, but I was looking for a confirmation. I've talked about that in the past, but oftentimes when we're looking at the language of symbols, we need confirmations. And sometimes a pyramid's just a pyramid, right? It helps to have connecting information or confirmations to what we're seeing, right? The confirmation I was looking for actually showed up in the finale of this season, so I'll show that to you in just a moment. But for now, just check this out. So it doesn't get much more obvious than that as far as I'm concerned. I remember when I first saw this, the night I was watching the episode, I was just like, wow, entered the dragon. You know, they even have the dragons on there. We also have a representation of the duality, as above, so below. CERN, LHC, opening portals, creating dimensions, opening the pit, some may say. Alright, so let me set up the clip here for you. This is actually from the finale show that happened just a few weeks ago, and this is when I had my confirmation. There was a situation that had happened during the series that Jeff Probst was talking about, and it was the first time in Survivor history that something like this had ever actually happened, so it was a really big deal. So as he was explaining it, at one point, he says this phrase, and I'm just going to play it out for you so you can hear it. But basically he's saying, this is reason, number, and then he says a number, why Survivor is so hard to win, or something like that. And just keep in mind that out of the vast amount of sequences, he could have chosen any number combination out there. He chose this specific set of numbers, so check this out.
That is reason number 322 why Survivor is so tough to win. That is reason number 322 why Survivor is so tough to win. That is reason number 322 why Survivor is so tough to win. That is reason number 322 why Survivor is so tough to win. That is reason number 322. That is reason number 322. That is reason number 322. That is reason number 322.
The 322, right? The Skull and Bones, American Illuminati. Reason number 322. And like I said, if I hadn't seen something like this, I may have never even made the video about the CERN symbolism that I'd seen in Survivor. And even with that, you know, when we find these symbols hidden in these shows, are they really hidden? And that's always the question. And I really do think it's a mix. I think sometimes these people are placing this stuff in there intentionally. It kind of sends a signal out to the rest of the people in the industry that are involved in all this stuff, this ritual practice. There's definitely some intention behind some of the symbolism. There's a reason they put it there. That's predictive programming or social engineering, mind control. So it's hard for me to say exactly why this stuff was in Survivor. Again, maybe it's just a part of the collective consciousness. All this stuff is coming out, right, regardless. Oftentimes people can be used as spiritual puppets to put this stuff out there. Or, once again, it could be the occult societies actually bleeding this stuff out. The revelation of the method, if you will. Skull and Bones is the famous secret society at Yale University. Unlike other fraternities, the order actually picks their own members. They primarily focus on making their members more powerful for life. The order is the only known secret society with their own summer home and private island. And this death cult is commonly known for sketchy and illegal activities. For example, Prescott Bush, grandfather of George W. Bush, and fellow bonesmen reportedly robbed Geronimo's grave. They stole the Apache chief's skull and presented it to Skull and Bones as a prize. There's an actual inscription in the Skull and Bones tomb, and it reads, "Who was the fool, who was the wise man, beggar or king? Whether poor or rich, all's the same in death." And that goes back once again to the death cult. There are different theories as to what the secret behind 322 is. And this story is from a few years back, but it turns out that Geronimo's descendants actually did try to sue Yale's Skull and Bones for those remains. And while we're on the subject of how they code this kind of stuff in practically everything, here's one I noticed a long time ago when I was actually researching the 322, the sequences and the synchronicities with those numbers. I found this way back, but I thought it was really interesting. This is the BBC, otherwise known as the British Broadcasting System. But even right there, if you break that down, very simply, it's the 223. Actually have the 322, but in this case it's inverted, or turned upside down, mirrored, as above so below. And just in case you think that's a reach, here's one of many stories I found connecting the Freemasons directly with the BBC. Right here, the BBC continues recruitment campaign for the Freemasons, what is really going on inside the Brotherhood. So what does CERN have to do with Survivor and the Freemasons? Quite a bit, it would seem. It's very much a tangled web that's been weaved when it comes to this occult symbolism. And as I've said for years, this stuff is really starting to come out now more and more. The truth behind all this stuff is coming out right in front of our eyes, but still so few people can see. But they're waking up. More and more are waking up. So thanks for checking out the video. Take it easy out there, and I'll talk to you real soon.